feeling lost and I have nowhere else to go now. I don't really have a place to call my home now. Everybody hating on, I feel so cold now. Why do everybody make me feel alone? Like I'm feeling lost and I have nowhere else to go now. I don't really have a place to call my home.
Naruto looked at the menu before ordering something scary beef. Before a small cup of ramen, he looked over at the three. So, Night Fox Sensei, what are your hobbies? Sakura asked, trying to start a conversation. Training, cooking, and protecting those precious to me, Naruto said without thought of hesitation. So, am I precious to you? Naruto exclaimed. Not really, Naruto said, twisting a toothpick. I have to save my students. Trust is earned, Naruto said, nodding at the waiter while she set down a bowl of ramen and a plate of skyr beef. Naruto turned red as she grabbed her pair of chopsticks and muttered under her breath. Sasuke thanks the waiter as she sat down on the bowl of tomato undo and a small plate of fried beef. Sakura nodded happily at Night Fox Sensei. Before we getting a fork and dig into the salad, Nato replaced her anger with another grin before asking, So Night Fox Sensei, what do you look under the mask? Nato said, leaning over the table and peering into Naruto's curious eyes. Confidently information, Naruto said, picking up a piece of beef with his chopstick. Yeah, idiot, why would he show you? Sakura growled, looking back at Sasuke for him to aside with her. Don't ask me, Sasuke shrugged, looking down at his foot, not wanting to get involved. Naruto smirked at reaching out her hand to his mask, reaching to pull off Naruto's, grabbed her wrist in lightning speed, and placed her hand on her back of the table. Once again, confidential information, Naruto said. So, not to scream, suddenly I'm the Hokage's daughter. I get what I want. She continues, stepping her foot. Naruto shook the anger. Look here, we're not spoiled brats in this team. We are equals, okay? Naruto growled, as suddenly his vision was paint red. Naruto looked around, noticing it wasn't going away. After saying goodbye to his teams, he reached home and stared at himself in the mirror to see he was unlike two Tomoe's Sharingan. I'm on the path of greatness, Naruto said, smiling at himself in the mirror. You deserve it, but have you earned it? The pain go through, finish the test. Naruto woke up and covered his sweat. What was that urge? Soft voice ringing in his head. What test did he have to finish? And who knew about his torture and pain? Brushing it aside, Naruto pulled himself up and looked over at the clock, screaming, It's 4 a.m. Naruto growled as he stood up and pulled on his Anbu clothes. He then chopped some vegetables, kitchen, and stirred with some eggs and fried rice. After sitting down, he ate slowly. He felt a pang of pain in his heart, always being alone. But that was the life of a true ninja, and Naruto knew he had to accept it. Heading out at around 4:15 a.m., he stared into the dense fog that was settling down on the village. Shivering slightly, Naruto headed over to the Hokage's house and pushed open the door slightly in relief to enter to a warm area. Naruto headed up into Naruto's room. Naruto felt sickening at the family. Their neglected son had finally come home, but still, after going missing, they didn't care. Naruto glared at them through a small window in the door before slightly entering his room and smiled gaze. Naruto's lips as he saw all his seats and daggers, kunai swords, and kunais still hanging on the stand on the wall. Naruto quickly sat down on the ruddy comfort and pulled out some weapon polish he had stolen from child to stop him from the kunai from dulling. Admiring the twist glass brown bottle, he slowly dipped his rag into it, polishing it. His weapon minutes later, soft snoring could be heard out of the window of Naruto Namikaze's window. Naruto groaned as the leaned to the side of the inn and he saw alarm clock barely at 8 a.m. Except this wasn't his alarm clock or bed or house. Naruto jumped up as he heard a very destructive voice yelled, "Mom, footsteps are leading into Naruto's room." Naruto yelled, "What? He must have come home." Kushina rushed happily. Naruto hurriedly made a genjutsu to hide his weapons rack and also jumped out of the window in his shoes, still wet from the morning fog. Kushina pushed the door only to see wet footsteps. She fell down on her knees and cried. "What did we do to him?" Kushina cried. "Did we hurt him that much?" She continued. Minato yawned and pulled himself out of bed, only to hear his wife crying. "What's wrong?" Minato asked as he stepped over to Kushina. "We neglected him, Minato. We need to make this right," Kushina cried. "I will. If you see him anywhere, maybe we can ask if he wants to stay with us all the time and not just to sleep," Minato asked. Kushina nodded happily. Not Night Fox, just Naruto. Naruto walked down the market streets, filling the baskets with rice, onions, and vegetables. As he walked, he saw Lady Kushina approaching him. "Lady Kushina," Naruto said, bowing at respect. "Lady?" "Naruto?" Kushina said, her eyes glazing with tears. Naruto continued to bow before beginning to walk away. "Wait," Kushina yelled, reaching out her arm towards him. "Can you live with us fully? Not just for the bed?" Kushina asked, biting her lip as tears started to fall down her face. "Why would I?" Naruto asked, pulling his arm away. "I have enough of your family," Naruto growled. "But you're part of our family too," Kushina yelled, grabbing his arm. Naruto shook Kushina off and yelled, "You neglected me for years. Why would I stay with the likes of you, scum?" Naruto yelled as he walked off to the cashier and brought his food, and then shunshed away, leaving a shocked Kushina. "Oi, Naruto," Kakashi said, looking down at the recently shrinking Naruto. "Yes, Kakashi?" Naruto asked. "Come on, we need to talk," Kakashi said, becoming him over. "Sure," Naruto shrugged, walking next to Kakashi. "I know you're Night Fox," Kakashi said as they walked. Naruto froze. "Come on, that's not what I want to talk about," Kakashi yelled. As he kept walking, Naruto smiled. "Hello." Naruto followed. Suddenly Kakashi was he looked down on his book. "So, what is so important that I have to go to your house?" Naruto asked. Kakashi then the small gray house with big slide door. After sliding the door open, he popped down in a small rug and beckoning Naruto to sit down. "I have seen your scars, bruises, and cuts, Naruto. Even in Ambu, you can't completely cover your identity," Kakashi spoke, looking over at Naruto, crossing the table. Naruto looked down as tears started to fall down from his eyes. "What do you want to know?" Naruto smirked, not showing Kakashi his face as he shook. "What happened to you, Naruto?" Kakashi said, staring at Naruto across from the small table. Kushina wiped her eyes as stood up off her knees in supermarket. She wiped the dust off her green apron and walked over to the section holder in her tears. She ignored the stares and shocked villagers and filled her basket with vegetables, fruits, and ramen. Kushina held the ramen packet in her hand, looking at the about in a minute. Later, in the hands starting to shake, Naruto lost ramen, Kushina whispered under her breath as she felt her eyes turn wet. As a baby, when I wasn't horrible mother, Kushina continued under her breath. Kushina shocked and breathed, and her head started to check and hazel. After buying her groceries, she ran home and locked herself in her room, settling down for a good cry. Naruto looked down and showed covering his eyes. This village thinks I'm a monster. Maybe I am. They beat me, they bruise me, they rape me, they hurt me beyond repair. I'm not one of those fixable plastic toys, Kakashi. Sometimes if you pull a elastic cord too far, it snaps. The Hokage and his family did this to me. They endured it. I immediately broke, and I'm immediately to do it. Don't try to fix me, Kakashi. It's been made clear. I'm not worth anyone's time. Naruto said, standing up as he rubbed his arms around Kakashi. That's not true, Naruto, he yelled. Everyone in the Ambu loves you. We don't care if you're a Jinchuriki, Kakashi continued. It doesn't matter. No one acknowledged me. Not enough to the Hokage what he's done, and until I can find a place called home, I will never be happy, Naruto said, opening the side of the door and slide on his clothes. Oi, Naruto, Kakashi said. Naruto said curiously as he turned back at Kakashi. How would you like to live with me and find a place to call home? Kakashi asked. Naruto ran to him and hugged him, tears filling up his eyes. You're safe now. Pass the test before it is too late, Naruto. Before he comes. Naruto woke up with a start, with a voice was getting to him, whimpering his eyes. He smiled. He had found a place to call home. Smiling at his small room, he pulled himself out of bed. He stared at the new bookshelf, dust of his dresser. He then stared himself in the mirror before heading to the faint call. Naruto, breakfast, Kakashi yelled. Naruto smiled happily and walked down the footsteps stair. Hey Kakashi, Naruto said as he waved to him. Breakfast, Naruto, Kakashi said, pointing at the table which was full of miso, rice, fish, and small bowl of salad. Kakashi, this looks like a full of meal, Naruto said with a curious. Kakashi looked over at him. Naruto, have you ever been a Japanese breakfast? Kakashi asked, looking over at him. Naruto shook his head. Well, then try this. It's really good, he said. Naruto nodded and bit a flesh skewer salmon. He smiled at how delicious it was. Like it? Kakashi asked. Yes, Naruto said happily, as he dug into the miso soup. Well, Naruto, get going. Your team will not appreciate you late, Kakashi said, looking over at the clock. Okay, I'm going, Naruto said as he nodded. As also Naruto spoke. What? Kakashi asked. Thanks. Naruto smiled. You're welcome, Kakashi said as Naruto raced out the door. Naruto placed his hand on his mask and ran out of the door towards his students, making his way to the Hokage's office. He heard a scream. Naruto turned around to see Sakura and Ino bleeding. Seriously, what the hell happened? He asked frantically. We were training, Sakura stuttered. I'm gonna use this image for what if Naruto was neglected and privacy. I like this photo. If you guys agree, should comment if I should post this image on the Naruto what if was neglected.